What's up, guys? This is Coach Grant with First Down Training, and today we're going to be breaking down 5 different wide receiver press releases that you guys can learn and when to use each one. Let's get started. But also, fellas, if you are a wide receiver and would like to train with us this offseason, we're going to be coming out to 8 more states across the U.S. for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver training camps. So check out that very first link in the description below. If you guys are located near Honolulu, Hawaii, Boston, Massachusetts, Cleveland, Ohio, Austin, Texas, Newark, New Jersey, Seattle, Washington, Denver, Colorado, and Los Angeles, California. We are coming out to all of those cities for 2-day-long QB and wide receiver camps. So check out that very first link below if you'd like to attend and to learn how you can get some more information on that very first link below. Let's get back to this video. Alright guys, how this video is going to play out is we're going to go over a different press release. I'm going to show you a full speed example of this press release, and then we're going to be talking about the exact situation to use this press release in and the reason why I like it, right? There are a million different press releases you can use, but these are probably my 5 favorite ones to use that are the most effective. So the first one we're going to be talking about is something called a wide step release. So a wide step release, I personally like it when the DB is either in head up press or he is shaded to the outside of you, okay? So I'm going to explain why. So a wide step, you're going to come off, let's use this white line as like my line of scrimmage. I'm lined up. All a wide step is exactly how it sounds. You're going to be stepping with your back foot, so whether that is when your right foot's up, it'd be your left. When your left foot's up, it's your right. You are stepping with your back foot wide, trying to get this DB to move off the platform if he's in head up, or attack his leverage to the outside, and then you're taking an inside release. So you can do this on like a one-step slant, and honestly, you can do this on pretty much any type of inside breaking route. So a wide step is, I love this release. So the mechanics of a wide step though, and that's another thing that's very important, is like, let's say this DB's outside leverage, right? His goal is to prevent the outside route. Don't let us run outside, force us to the inside to the help. So I come off here, we do this wide step release, I step wide, I'm trying to attack him. I need to make sure that when I step wide, I am not stepping flat. A lot of guys, what they'll do is they'll step flat on the line of scrimmage. That's not a wide step, that's just a jab. That's not gonna do anything. We actually have to step wide, commit vertical, get him to move to threaten that leverage. So I love this release, head up press or outside shade press, wide step release, show you how this thing's gonna look, full speed. Alright guys, so this next press release you're going to be talking about is a split release. So a split release is probably my favorite release that you guys can use against a physical DB who's right in front of your face, or specifically head up press. Now you can use a form of this split release versus inside leverage and outside leverage, and we're going to get to that as this video progresses, but right now we're just doing a simple split release. So again, split release is very similar to a wide step release in the respect that it is exactly how it sounds. So what you're going to be doing, white line's my line of scrimmage, let's say, you are essentially literally just splitting your feet. So you are going to take your front foot and you are going to move the front foot out, and you are going to bring your back foot straight up. A lot of people on a split release, what they think is that both feet got to split, and both feet go out. That's not the case. What it is your front foot goes out and your back foot comes straight up, getting you to this position where your feet are maybe slightly outside of your shoulders, which is a balanced position where you are trying to essentially freeze the DB and then leave him whichever way, and we're going to talk about how we do that in a second. Now with this split release, very, very important that both feet hit the grass at the exact same time. This is not a crossover release, this is not a jab release, it is not a 1-2, and it is not a stand straight up in the air release. You want to pretend almost like you are underneath a small door, you are splitting your feet, and you have to stay underneath the door. Now, this puts you in an explosive position to where you could react inside or outside because of how this release is set up. When you guys split your feet, that is a position of balance. You get to that position of balance, you can react and take an inside release, you can react and take an outside release, which is why I love it against head up press, because sometimes what DBs will do is they'll disguise their leverage. I come out, DB's in head up press, let's say I split and he jumps to the inside, because I'm in a position of balance, I could just push and take the outside release. Or let's say I come up to the line, I split, he jumps outside, I'm in a position of balance, I can just take the inside release. That's why I love the split. Now, I said it earlier, we like this against a physical DB, because you get to that, again, position of balance. So many guys against physical DB, they'll stand straight up, jammed. But if you stay underneath that doorway, you split, he gets hands, I might be okay because now I have a good base and I kind of froze him with that split and both feet striking at the same time. So I'm going to show you this is going to look full speed. Split release is great to use against head up press. Alright guys, so this next release is going to be something called a split jab release. So this builds off of the last release that we just discussed, which was that split release. Now this is going to be a split and a jab. So this is when you would use this release against inside shade or outside shade press. So let's say, for example, I have inside shade press. So you come up to the line, let's say you really like the split release. And again, all these releases we discussed, this is just what I like. right? Some people may not be comfortable with these releases, and that's totally fine, but if you pick up maybe just 1 or 2 releases from this video that you can add to your tool belt that you're comfortable with and that you like, you're gonna be a much more efficient wide receiver, and that's the whole goal of this, right? So, first thing we got here with this split, remember, it's the same type of deal. We come to balance, your front foot goes out, your back foot comes up. My feet are not super wide. They are just slightly outside my frame. So again, remember, we said we have inside shade press, you split, jab to the inside. So it is literally just a jab in either direction to where the DB's leverage is. So let's say he's inside shade press, I split jab. He's outside shade press, split jab. You could go either way, which is why I like this split jab release. So again, split release, great release to kind of freeze this DB, put him on alert, and then jab to attack his leverage. I'm gonna show you how this is gonna look full speed. All right, guys, so the next release we're going to be talking about is something called a dive release. So a dive release is kind of the opposite of, you guys probably have heard of this release before called a diamond release. A dive is the exact opposite. So pretty much what it is you're going to be taking 2 to 3, depending on where your stance is, depending on the steps that you take, hard steps inside, trying to cross a DB's face, diving to the inside so you could just slip back and go to the outside. So that's why they call it a dive release, right? So if you come off the ball, how this should be, we like this release against a DB who's maybe, I would say maybe a yard or 2 off, head up. I only like this against head up. You could probably do this against inside leverage. I just don't think it's necessary. If he's head up, 2 yards off, that's when we want to play this thing. So set, go, we come off the ball. Your first step is with your back foot across. Now notice how with my front foot I kind of took like a little pivot step. It is very, very awkward to do this release and just keep your front foot grounded. So you could kind of take a step if you want. It's not a false step, it's a part of the release. Or you could pivot your front foot. You pivot your front foot, 1 hard step, 2, put the brakes on, and then you slip back to the outside. Now, why do we do this release? If you're in a team that is very drag heavy, like let's say you're a slot wide receiver and you guys run a lot of a mesh concept. I'm sure all of you have probably heard that before, where they take the 2 slot receivers, one will drag at 5, one will drag at 6. Against man coverage, that's a great play. So if you have to run a route like a fade, 10-yard out, come back, you could sell like you're doing a drag, get that DB to crash, then slip back to the outside. So again, you have to make sure we do 3 specific things. You come off the ball, it's a hard step. Number 1, you got to run fast. Number 2, you got to make sure that we have the same type of stride. Number 3, hips and shoulders are committed to the drag to get that DB to crash. So dive release is one of my favorite releases to work. I'm going to show you how this is going to look full speed. All right, guys, the next release we're going to be talking about is something called a slide and go release. So a slide and go release is something that I love against inside shade press, especially when maybe you've used a regular slide release to set this up. So what DBs are taught usually is that when they're inside shade press, so he's lined up inside shade, that if you see a wide receiver kind of slide and hesitate to the outside, sit to the inside, keep your leverage, and to expect a slant. Because how many times have you seen a wide receiver, do this slide release where they slide, DB overcommits, they hit a crossover, and they slip underneath, which is a DB's worst nightmare because they look foolish, they got beat on a slant, and they didn't keep their leverage to the inside. So this is a great way to get that DB to hesitate so you could take off, go run a fade, a comeback, honestly pretty much any route that you could run off of this. If the tempo is fast, we can't make sure that we have too slow of a tempo. So we come off here, all we are doing is we are going to, at a 45, it is very important that you do not go flat, because even if you go flat and that DB sits, you still have to get vertical and he could cut you off at that angle. So we have to attack him vertically when I do this slide. So we come off here, all we are doing is we're gonna slide and kind of hesitate, then take off and go. But when we take off and go, it's very important that you don't just take off and go run to the sideline, because that cuts down field space, especially if you're running like a fade ball. If you're running a fade ball, you got to give that quarterback space to fade you. So after you do that slide, make sure that you stay low at the upper half. You almost dip that inside shoulder to get hip to hip with the DB to leave yourself space to the outside if you're running an outside breaking route. If you're running an inside breaking route, getting skinny, hip to hip, dip in the shoulder will help you stack or set you up for a throw by. Either way, but I love that slide and go against inside shade press. I'm going to show you how this is going to look full speed. All right, guys, really want to thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. If you have any questions at all, don't hesitate to leave those in the comment section below. We always appreciate the feedback. It's always great to hear from you guys. And again, fellas, if you'd like to train with us when we are traveling to 8 more states this off-season, check out that very first link in the description below. We'd love to have you out to one of our off-season QB and wide receiver camps all the way from Honolulu, Hawaii to Los Angeles, California. So very first link in that description below. I'll see you guys next time.